Michel Boyer with more on the campaign trail, including an interesting message sent out on Twitter not long ago from former President Barack Obama. Michel.
Yeah, that's right. This is unprecedented, Todd. A former U.S. president basically endorsing Liberal leader Justin Trudeau. Let's bring it up if we can. I was proud to work with Justin Trudeau as president. He's a hardworking, effective leader who takes on big issues like climate change. The world needs his progressive leadership now, and I hope our neighbors to the north support him for another term. So it turns out that the bromance between the two continues, even though Barack Obama no longer the U.S. president. Now, there were a lot of questions as to whether or not this is foreign interference in a Canadian election. We reached out to Elections Canada to answer the question. The answer is no. This was not a tweet that was paid for, so it does not fall under the category of interference. I can tell you that, I mean, this is a huge endorsement. I'm just looking at my iPhone, 71,000 likes so far, 12,000 retweets. It was posted at 2 o'clock, so just over an hour ago. So it is gaining traction. But, you know, this could either help Justin Trudeau in certain respects, but it could also hurt him. It could mobilize Conservative voters to get out there and vote on Monday.
Yeah, it's a good point. And as I was coming into the studio, Jen Burke, the anchor just before me, was leaving, and we were sort of talking about this in the commercial break. Does this sort of thing actually help Justin Trudeau? Does it move any numbers? Does it make, you know, folks who might vote NDP say, oh, you know what, actually, I'm going to vote for the Liberals? Or is this kind of not all that surprising?
You know, it could do all of the above. We really don't know. Again, this is a major move. I'm pretty sure the intent was to help Justin Trudeau, not to harm him. But we're going to really have to wait and see because, you know, people are kind of all over the place on this election. People have very, very different and contrasting views. And really, you know, I think we're just going to have to wait and see, Todd.
Right. Here's something else interesting, too, that I want to bring up. And I know you've been looking at these numbers because they came out this morning from the Nanos Research Group for CTV and the Globe and Mail. And I want to start, if we can, with 416, of course, the area code in and around Toronto. Not surprising, but it shows where things were, bottom line, about a month ago or so and where they are now. So big surge for the Liberals. The Conservatives are down. The NDP also down. But here's where things get more interesting. The so-called 905, which is, you know, suburbs outside of Toronto as you get to sort of the greater Toronto area. Now, this is interesting because the Liberals are up and the Conservatives are down by close to 9 points over the last month or so. And if we zoom out to Ontario writ large, again, you see what's going on here, where the Ontario numbers are coming in. Again, the Liberals are ahead. And have gone up, whereas the Conservatives, Michel, have dropped by about 6 points. Now, what does that mean, potentially?
Well, it means that possibly what Justin Trudeau is doing, invoking the name of Doug Ford time and time again, is sticking a little bit, and that Andrew Scheer isn't necessarily performing to the expectations of Ontarians. One thing to caution, though, is that the 416 and the 905 numbers, the margin of error goes from anywhere from like 5% up to 9%. The Ontario numbers are a lot more solid because we're talking about close to 800 people who were surveyed. But the trend is there. The trend is there that the Conservatives are trending downward. And, you know, when you look at Quebec, the Liberals still have a solid lead, but that's not how our parliamentary system works. We elect local representatives in ridings through seats. And I, you know, went to Nanos and I said, look, it looks like the Liberals are doing really well in some key ridings. And he says, doesn't matter. They're still in minority sort of situation. When you look at the seat count and seat projections, they are still deadlocked.
All right, let's just bring up those Quebec numbers, too, because you mentioned it. So, again, this is always interesting because you've got the situation in Montreal, right, the big metropolis, second biggest city in the country. It does tend to trend heavily Liberal with a smattering of NDP support. The Liberals are basically the same, slightly down, but not much. The Bloc is up slightly, the NDP up the most. But then when you zoom out to the rest of Quebec, a different story. Liberals, again, still in the lead, but the Bloc has surged, we see there as well. And this Quebec-wide ballot, Michel, the Conservatives are actually in 4th place.
Yeah, that's right. And if you look at Montreal, they're in fifth place behind the Green Party, which is pretty surprising. One thing that we do want to keep in mind with all of this is, in fact, that these numbers have been changing quite substantially in the Quebec area over the last number of weeks since the election started. And the biggest threat for Justin Trudeau and a majority has to do with the Bloc Québécois. They are doing very, very well provincially, and because there are so many seats in the province of Quebec, they are jeopardizing Trudeau's chance at a majority government. And that's why Justin Trudeau is coming out today and saying, listen, you have the progressive vote, and then you have the conservative vote. And who do you think is likely going to get elected? And who do you want to get elected? And he's really sending a message to those people who are Bloc supporters, who are Green supporters, and who are NDP supporters, because they're on the same side of the spectrum. And the message that he's sending out, and it's almost, I'd say, borderline fear-mongering, is if you vote for any of the other progressive parties, you give a greater chance to the Conservatives of winning here.
CTV's Michel Boyer in Ottawa. Thanks, Michel.